Hey everyone, I'm your host, Emily Lauren. Welcome to the Body Positive Podcast, where we ditch diets, normalize real bodies, and help you feel better in your own skin. Welcome everyone to the Body Positive Podcast show. Khara Jefferson is here today to share with us both her experience as a woman with autoimmune disease and as a nurse practitioner. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So I think it's safe to say that most women struggle with body image issues, but when you also live in a marginalized body, those experiences can be very different. Tell me about your experience with autoimmune disease and how it's affected your body image.
So, my autoimmune disease, when I was originally diagnosed, I didn't even know for years that I was actually suffering with an autoimmune disease.
Wow.
And by the time they caught it, it was late. And about a year and a half after that, I ended up having a major abdominal surgery.
Wow.
And so that was my life for several years. And my original first surgeries were all laparoscopic, so it wasn't as bad. But then my bowel perfed.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had the bowel perforation, they actually had to cut me, big midline scar. So I have all of these other little scars, and then now this big scar, and it just took a huge hit on my self-esteem. One of the things was not only do I have the scars, I no longer had a belly button.
Wow.
So it was kind of weird to me. So just weird to me because we're not used to that, right?
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you developed body dysmorphia in this process. Can you tell me about your experience with that and maybe some of the things that you had to work on in addressing that issue?
Sure. So at first I did not know that I had body dysmorphia,
Mm-hmm.
but my family and my friends, they were like, okay, something is not right here. The reason it developed, I've always kind of been a smaller person. And then after my surgeries, at the worst, when I got out of the hospital, I weighed less than 65 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was on all these steroids to get my weight back up, to heal my gut, all of these different things, the medicines that the doctors had me on. And as I started to gain weight, I'd look in the mirror and I'd see this huge person all the time. And I could not understand why they wanted me to continue taking all of these medications that were making me big. Like it really affected my mental ability to see myself clearly.
Yes.
And I can see that now when I look at pictures that I was really malnourished.
Yeah.
But my mind said, you're absolutely not malnourished, and these people just don't understand that you need to be smaller, not bigger.
Yeah, and that's exactly what body dysmorphia is, right? What you see in the mirror is not indicative of what you're actually seeing, and this can interfere in how you live your life, correct?
Yes, it sure did.
So what are some of the things that you did to address this dysmorphia and get better? And now, like you said, you can see yourself looking back at pictures and understand the way you actually looked. So how did you get through that?
So I think part of it, when my parents saw this was happening, they were like, you need to speak with a professional, right? So
Yes.
that was critical for me, not only because of the actual dysmorphia part of it, but also because of the autoimmune disease and how it changed my life. Like friends who were my friends were no longer my friends because I couldn't do the things that people, were doing at my age.
Yeah.
So that limited me a lot. Additionally, I have always been interested in medical things, and with my autoimmune disease, I was told, oh my gosh, you cannot ever go to medical school. It's going to kill you. The stress is going to keep your autoimmune disease flared up. So what happened was I was like, you know what? I can't do this, but I can sure go to nursing school.
Yes.
And as I was in nursing school and I was learning all of these different things about nutrition and health, and I do all of this research on my own, I started to build myself up and get myself healthy.
I think that's
realize,
amazing. Good for you. And how do you feel about your scars today?
So I am embracing them. It took me actually years, right? So
Mhm.
a long time, over 10, 15 years to fully embrace them. I'll honestly say it wasn't until maybe 5, 7 years ago that I actually went to the beach and put on a bikini because I still was ashamed of my scars. So
Yeah.
the rest of my body I'm fine with, but my abdomen, I was like, I don't want people judging. And
Hmm.
so that part was the hardest part. But now I am happy and I'm happy to go put on swimsuits and I don't feel like I need to flaunt it. But I also feel like it's not for me to worry about what people think anymore. It's for them to just embrace who I am.
I love that. And it reminds me of a quote about scars. It's something along the lines of scars aren't imperfections, but rather they're representation of our ability to overcome things. And I think that's a really nice way of looking at things if your scars can actually empower you and remind you of what your body has done for you to keep you here and alive and healthy. And I think that's great that you now feel empowered and good about them in a good place. So, on top of your medical issues, there was someone in your life who made you feel even worse about your body. Tell me about your experience with that.
Okay, so I had my boyfriend at the time. Um, he was great for everything else, but the minute that he found out I was sick, that
Hmm.
scared him. So he already had this fear of sickness. And after I had my first surgery and then my next, it got worse. So my
Yeah.
relationship with him got worse after each surgery. He would look at me and he was like, I can't stand the way that your scars look. They're disgusting. I can't stand to feel them. They give me the heebie jeebies. And he told me, like, nobody, if this, because I was like, you know what, I don't need this. And he's like, if you don't stay with me, you're going to have a hard time trying to find anybody who's going to want to be with you because of the way that your scars are.
Oh my goodness. And that probably didn't help when you were developing this body dysmorphia, right?
It absolutely did not. It actually made it worse. And I think
Hmm.
that's when I really needed the help of that mental health provider to get me back to saying, this is not about you, this is about him.
Yes. And eventually that relationship ended, is that correct?
That relationship did end, and I am in a much better place.
Good.
But it teaches you, right? All relationships teach you
Yeah,
something.
absolutely. Is there any advice that you would give to someone who has a person in their life making negative comments about their body?
I would say that if you have someone who's making negative comments about your body, first you need to go to your inner self. Maybe you
Mhm.
need to journal. Maybe you need to write down what you feel. But you also need to be able to stand up for yourself and say, these some of these things that happen to my body are not necessarily my fault, right?
Yes.
And so this is the body that I was given, this is the body that I have now, and I have to live with it. And once you get to that place of acceptance, I also firmly believe in affirmations.
Hmm.
So I say a lot of I am affirmations, and that helped with my confidence.
I
So
love that.
get yourself out of the situation, find yourself some supportive people because nobody needs toxic people in their life.
Excellent advice. So let's switch gears a little bit to what you've experienced as a nurse practitioner. What are some of the body image issues you've witnessed in your career so far?
I have witnessed, so I see patients of all ages because I'm a
Hmm.
family nurse practitioner. And some of the things that I've seen are everybody now has this real desire to be slim. So it doesn't matter if your body type is not meant to be 100 pounds. I see patients who sometimes starve themselves, anorexia,
Hmm.
bulimia. I also see bigger people who don't want to they're like I don't want to lose weight or I have XYZ thing because I've been told, especially if you're African American, bigger is better.
Hmm.
So I see a whole lot along the different spectrum from all kinds of different people, and I don't know, I think women just have a hard time. It's
In
mostly
general,
women.
yeah,
Yes.
of course. And would you say that the medical setting's the best place to get help for body image issues, or is it just a part of the recovery for some of these people? I know there can be a lot of bias, and that the training doesn't necessarily spend, as much time covering some of these body image issues as we would hope for. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think that not only does the training not cover it, I also worry about us using body mass index or BMI as a
Yes.
standard to rate people as, you know, overweight, underweight, obese, morbidly obese.
Hmm.
I think that that sets a problem because if you look at people's genetics, some people are just not meant to be in this range. What
Yes.
works for someone doesn't work for someone else. And when people go to the doctor and they get this printout at the end of their visit that says your BMI was this and now you're classified
Hmm.
as obese or overweight, I think that that is detrimental to people's psyche.
Yes. And I've actually been doing some research on BMI, and it was actually a mathematical equation that was developed by a mathematician, which was not meant for classifying, weight in people. And first of all, the studies were done on just white men, which doesn't tell us a lot about, variety of people. And then in the 90s, I read that BMI, the categorizations were changed so that like overnight millions of people became overweight. And it was done by a organization that's actually funded by like diet companies. So so there's so much information out there that's coming out that these systems need to address more than just weight or appearance to measure health.
Correct. I think measuring health is the real key here because we know that certain people's shapes, depending on your shape, that can lead to other problems, right? Like if you have more abdominal fat or a bigger middle section, um, we think about cardiovascular disease. So there's
Hmm.
a whole bunch of other things at play. And I think we just have not done a very good job of educating and engaging patients
Hmm.
throughout the whole journey.
Yeah. So, how can we improve this industry to better care for their patients? How do you think?
I think everyone needs training.
Hmm.
I like to equate it to everything that happened last year with the shifting of all of these anti racism movements or
Hmm.
social justice. The same way that we're now investing all of that energy into people looking in themselves and figuring out what you were taught a long time ago and how to dismantle those beliefs, we actually need to do the same thing when it comes to weight and body image. We shouldn't be telling girls at a young age that Barbie is the gold standard,
Yes.
right? Because that messes with people, but nobody knows better. So it starts from the time kids are young and in telling them at every step of the way that you're beautiful just the way you are.
Hmm.
Your body does not define you. The thing that defines you is your personality, how you treat people, those kind of things. That's what the emphasis needs to be on. And as we get older, then we focus more on people's health, meaning, what are proper foods for you to eat to stay healthy? How do you stay well? Well, you also have to exercise. But that means
Hmm.
different things for different people. It still doesn't mean that we all have to be in these different categorized boxes of this weight, and this weight. Weight is not important. The weight is not important.
Yes. Exactly. And health at the end of the day, it's great that we should all want to live a long, healthy life, but health is not indicative of our value or our worth either, too, right? Because
It's not.
some people choose they can't choose to be healthy, right? People that have diseases and illnesses that they have no control over.
You're exactly right. There are things that people don't have control over, and I think that's one of my focuses in not where I practice currently, but what I'm moving to is a
Hmm.
model of wellness, whatever that means for
I like
people.
that. Yeah.
Because, you know, I look at some places have food deserts. So
Hmm.
it doesn't matter what you do. The food that they have access to is not necessarily high quality food. So you can't necessarily rate them and compare them to someone who is in an affluent neighborhood where they can buy all of the different foods that they want, or and they can go to a gym because and they can have a personal trainer. Not
Yes,
everybody has that. And so it's
exactly.
really looking at the things that are modifiable and focusing on those things for those people that they're
And
willing to work on.
and that individual health, right? What it means to you as opposed to someone else, and what works for your life and your overall well-being. I like that.
Yes.
So tell me about Reiki and how you've used this in your practice and how it can be useful to healing the mind and the body.
So, Reiki is, in simple form, it's the movement of energy. And so I got into Reiki because as my mom watched me suffer through my surgeries and, everything that went with it, she and her friends, they're a big group of, she's also a yoga instructor. They did a
Hmm.
lot of Reiki on me to try to heal me and heal my mind to get me back in a good place. And so over the years, when you're younger, you not don't necessarily want to get into all of those things. But
Yeah.
over the years, it's worked for me. And
Hmm.
I took such an interest in that and meditation that I was like, I actually need to go and become my own Reiki master. And so I did. And I've really used it to help me and mostly my family and friends. So when my husband got sick, I have a friend who does Reiki, and we did Reiki on him to clear his mind of all that. And he
Hmm.
came out of it like not a completely new person, but you can just see that some of the weight and everything that he had been under
Hmm.
was just lifted because it's all about moving energy and where that energy feels stuck.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we focus on, like you were saying, that overall well-being. It's not just about like the medical science behind, things. There's also so many other elements that can help us, whether it's spiritual, energetic. There's so many things that we can do to heal ourselves.
Yeah, it's every single domain. It is
Hmm.
family, it is friends, it's spiritual, it's mental, it's emotional. Oh goodness, emotional health is so important because if your emotions are out of whack and all over the place, you can't focus clearly. And so it's really important that when we're talking about wellness, we're not just limiting ourselves to one aspect.
I think that's incredible. And you were saying that you're shifting careers slightly. Tell me a little bit about where you're headed.
So I am a certified life coach now, and I would like to take my life coaching skills and combine it with functional medicine skills to actually help people get their life in balance, whatever that means for them, you know. Um, with that, I hope to stop or help them halt the progression of what they like to say in medicine is dis-ease instead of disease, because
Mm-hmm.
it really means that something in your body is out of balance. And so if we can fix the root cause of the issues to help people to actually feel better, I think that helps them in so many other aspects of their life. Because if your body feels good, chances are you can feel good mentally, emotionally. You still have that spiritual component that we can work on, but that's where I'm going. I don't want to focus anymore on writing prescriptions
Mm-hmm.
to heal everything because it doesn't. We know that that causes side effects, and that's
Yes.
not healing the body.
I love that. So, how can women feel more in control or empowered to take control of this overall well being?
So I think that the first step with anything is recognizing that
Hmm.
there's something that's unfulfilling or you're worried about in your life. And the sooner you can admit that, the better you're able to welcome new things in. You're able to accept it. And so if you can first acknowledge that you have that, then the next step is to find resources to help you. And so that's what I just read an article the other day about how almost everybody should have a life coach.
Yes.
Right? Because life is so tough just the way that we've made it. And so if you can have somebody on your side encouraging you every step of the way and holding you accountable. So many times people don't follow their goals and their dreams, but more importantly, people don't write them down. So if you don't write them down and you don't acknowledge what they are, it's very difficult for you to actually get there.
Yes, agreed. And measure your progress, right?
Yes. So every single goal should be follow the SMART format. It should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
I love
because if you don't have all of those elements, how will you know if you ever achieve it?
That is great advice. Tell us about where we can find you online.
So I have a website. My website is currently under construction, but the basics are there, and it is kajwellness.com.
Amazing. And lastly, if you could offer us one tip to our listeners, what would that be?
Be you. Be true to you, whoever you are, and just know that other people's opinions of you, they're just that. They're opinions. You have to live with you every day. You only get one life, so make the most of it.
I absolutely love that. And it was such a pleasure talking with you and getting to know a little bit about your story and what you're doing and how you're helping people. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you.
Once again, thanks for listening to today's episode. Make sure you follow us at Real Happy Daughter, and please share this with someone who needs a little more real in their life.